Hi, everyone. My name is Joanne Ryshpan-Harris, and this is the Mrs. Knapp Show. Today, we welcome to our virtual studio, Susan Laliberte. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay. And she is a reverse mortgage professional with Longbridge Financial. So welcome to the show, Susan.
Thank you, Joanne.
No, you're welcome. So I've been watching commercials for years, and they tell you how to get a reverse mortgage, but I still don't quite understand it. So how did you begin your position at Longbridge Financial? And did you have experience prior to joining the company somewhere else?
Yes, Joanne. So I started in the mortgage industry about 10 years ago, and I was doing business development. So for our whole mortgage department there. So I was bringing in business and pretty much handing it off to our loan officers, and loved it for the longest time. And just, my career kind of hit a wall. There was really nowhere else for me to go with that company. Their corporate offices were in Utah, and my managers didn't seem like they were going to go anywhere. So I was kind of looking around to maybe get into wholesale. I kind of thought that was my next step. And being a loan originator just kind of fell into my lap. I got recruited by a company that before Longbridge. So I worked there for a couple of years and then left there with my manager and my vice president and came over here to Longbridge Financial, and absolutely love it. Absolutely.
Oh, that's great. That's
Yeah.
great.
Yeah.
So can you walk us through the process of getting a reverse mortgage? And do you have to have good credit?
Good, very good question, Joanne. And I get asked that all the time. And no, you don't have to have really good credit like you typically would with a forward mortgage, right? A forward being a traditional mortgage. Yeah. So everything, a lot is driven off of FICO scores with a traditional mortgage, because they want to make sure that you're credit worthy, and that's part of the whole underwriting process. How much you make is another part of that process. So with reverse mortgages, we're basically underwriting the home. We're underwriting how much is the home worth, and then that's what we're going to. That's how much equity we will lend out of the appraised value of the home, and then other factors are taken into consideration too. Age is a big driver of how much money they get.
I see. Can you just explain, just for people who don't know, what underwriting means and equity?
Sure. So underwriting is the process that the file will go through. It goes to an underwriter who is going to look through the file and make sure that all of the I's are dotted, the T's are crossed, because these loans get sold to the secondary market, and we have to make sure that we're abiding by all of the guidelines. Equity, was that the other one, equity?
Yes, equity,
yeah.
yes.
Yeah, so equity is the difference between what your loan amount is, if you have one, and what the house is worth. So the house is worth 500,000, you owe 200 on it, your equity is 300,000.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yes, so for people who aren't good at math like myself, it's good to know. So what would you like us to know about reverse mortgages that people wouldn't ordinarily know?
Yeah, another great question, because a lot of people just have so many different questions. But one of the ones that I find the most that surprises people is that, let's just say that somebody's house is worth 500,000 and they're 70-ish years old. I'm just using round numbers. Let's say they're able to pull out 200,000 in equity, and it goes into what we call a credit line. That credit line can be used to do whatever they want with. That's equity in their home. Number one, it's non-taxable, and a lot of people don't know that. So when they draw that money out of the credit line, it is not taxed. It's already been taxed money, right?
That's great. That's equity. Really good.
Yeah. And then the other thing that they don't know is that the credit line that money sits in, it grows from year to year. The older they get, the more access they have to more equity. And a lot of people just don't know that.
Oh, wow. Okay. Yeah. I didn't know that. So that's good to know.
Yeah.
So when someone passes away, as a homeowner
Mhm.
and who has a reverse mortgage, what happens to their home? Does the bank or the lender own it, or children? How does that go?
Yeah, great question too, because that's another one that is a misconception. You're asking all the right questions. So it does not go back to the bank unless they want it to. So everybody thinks the bank automatically gets it back. That is not the case. So the borrowers are gone, whoever owned the house. The heirs have the option to either sell the property, pay back the reverse mortgage with only the proceeds that come from the sale. They could, if they love the house, they wanted to keep it, they could get their own mortgage, assuming they're not 62, a traditional mortgage, pay
Right.
off the reverse mortgage and keep the house as a primary residence, rental, whatever. Or number three, they could simply let it go back to the bank if they just didn't want to deal with it.
Right.
Yeah, so people think that the lenders want the house back. We're not in the real estate business, and they do not. I mean, if they have to take it back, they will to satisfy the loan, right?
Right.
But yeah, they really hope that the heirs or whoever has sold that house is, or they'll take care of selling it or settling the debt.
Well, that's really good to know, because a lot of people, they get sick and then things sort of get out of hand, and they need money to pay off the bills, etc. So,
Yeah,
it's really
absolutely.
good to know what happens after the fact if something happens
Yep,
to them.
absolutely.
So, so if someone owns a home here, say in Las Vegas, for example,
Mhm.
and they're Canadian, and they're only here, I don't know, whatever, 6 months out of the year, can they get a reverse mortgage here, or do they have to be a US citizen?
A couple of things on that. So if they are not a US citizen, so I guess the answer to your question is possibly yes, depending on the circumstances.
Okay.
If they're not a US citizen, they would have to have a green card
Okay.
and have a social security card, have a social security number.
Okay.
But it also, the other thing that would play into that is that it has to be their primary residence.
Oh, okay.
So
So
if
they really couldn't do it if they were just like a snowbird and this was a secondary residence, right?
right, it has to be their primary residence. But if it
Okay.
were, we could do that, with
Okay.
being either a US citizen or having a green card and a social security number.
Okay. That's
Yeah.
that's interesting and good to know. So I always ask about the veterans, of course, because they're important to us.
Yep. Very important.
Say they want to apply for a reverse mortgage as well. Is that different rules apply to them, or they're just like everybody else?
Yeah, so a reverse mortgage is a reverse mortgage. We don't have like an FHA loan and a VA loan, but however, we do give our veterans a discount. Well, I shouldn't say discount, a lender credit towards their closing costs.
Oh, okay. And what would that be like? Just
The amount.
yeah, like if I don't know if it was $300,000 home.
It's not a lot. It's only like $500.
Oh, okay, okay. All
Yeah.
right, it's $500.
Yeah, better than nothing, right?
Yes.
Oh, you'd be surprised. A lot of times $500 can make a difference, and
Yeah,
what
that's
they're,
true.
yeah, and what they're getting out of the reverse mortgage and all that stuff. So
Yeah, that's good. So can you tell me about a time where you helped someone secure a reverse mortgage and it touched you in some kind of way, like, was special?
yeah, so I've told this story a lot before, and it's just almost like one of the first loans I did when I actually became a loan originator. Is we had a gal who had lost her husband, and she only owed 30,000 on her home. The home was worth close to 700,000, but her son, her only survivor, was helping her with the house. The house was completely torn apart, pretty much gutted. There was scaffolding in there, all kinds of stuff going on. He had a stroke, and so he was not able any longer to work and help her financially since her husband had passed.
Mhm.
So he went into an assisted living, and she was literally, she couldn't get up the stairs. She was literally basically living in her kitchen in a
boy.
recliner chair. And she owed 30,000 and she was on her third forbearance. So the bank was knocking at her door. That was it. If we couldn't get that, I think we started like in October. We had to have it closed by December, the end of that year. And we made it by the skin of our teeth to get that loan closed for her. So, you know, and I know I've got a couple more stories like that with women who I've had two gals that had lost their husband, and they had children at home, adult children, one that had cancer and the other that was just mentally not capable of taking care of themselves. And so we've helped a lot of people, you know. It's not only for desperation, but I've helped a lot of those people. So that makes me feel good.
Yeah, Susan, when I'm doing my job, you know, I see a lot of that kind of stuff where people are not prepared to make their last wishes known.
Yeah.
And it really does create some kind of problems for loved ones, you know, and we do something at my agency that called the 5 wishes. And we go through that with them, and then they make informed decisions about what they want to do, because it gives them sort of like a map. So it's good that, you know, you're able to help at that end too, you know?
Yeah.
So,
and I think it's easier coming from somebody like you than like a loved one sitting down with them and asking them those questions, right? And
yeah, it's considerably easier.
Yes.
There's no
You guys.
arguments. Yeah.
Exactly.
So, so does Longbridge offer any incentives to their clients who do business with them?
No, we really don't. We're very closely regulated by the government, by RESPA. So I can't even, if somebody were to send me a loan, I can't say, hey, I'll give you $500 if you send loans my direction. I can't do that, and neither can we as a company.
Yeah, I can't do that either.
Yeah.
You know, completely not happening.
Yeah. A lot of rules been into play over the last 20 years.
Yeah. It's all good. It's all good. So lastly, like, how do people contact you? Your website, an email address, phone number?
I do. So the best way to reach me is my cell phone. I don't know. Do you have my information to put up at the end? I didn't even ask you that earlier.
I do, but if you could let people know now, that would be good too.
Yeah. So my cell number, I'm local here in Las Vegas at 702-525-7774. And that is the best way to get me. And I do return my phone calls. And you know, I can always shoot out an email to them, which is what I usually do. If somebody gives me a phone call, I'll get their email, shoot them an email so they have all of my information electronically as well.
Can you give them your email and your website?
Yeah. So the email is S as in Susan, Laliberte, LALIBERTE at Longbridge, all one word, LONG, Longbridge -financial.com. And I'm drawing a blank right now. My website, we're just getting all set up on websites and that. So that's horrible. I don't know that right off the top of my head.
That's okay. I'll research it. It's fine. Or you can tell me.
Thank you.
So, I want to thank you, Susan, for being on the show. And like I always say to the end of my guests, one of them suggested that I have a big party at my house at the end of the year. So maybe we'll do that, but we'll catch up with you at the end of the year, see how you're doing.
Great. Yeah.
And
for having
we'll give out the information, you know, underneath this recording. And as always, I have to read this to everyone. This show is for educational and informational purposes only. I am not a medical professional, and if you have an emergency, please call 911 or that number in your area. And for more shows, you can visit us on our Facebook page at Advice Dear Mrs. Knapp, or follow us on YouTube, or on our website where you can sign up for newsletter and get a free provider booklet. So this e-booklet, you can write down your appointments when you go to see your yearly provider. And I have not just posted it there, but I can do that. I'm thinking about doing that where people can just download the information, the booklet. It's very handy when you go talk to your provider to have all the information and questions that you want to ask. So you'll be able to download that at www.bluebirdhealthadvocates.com. And until our next one, wishing you all a sunny day in Las Vegas, which it is, but very windy. Until our next episode, my name is Joanne Ryshpan-Harris, and I'm signing off on the Mrs. Knapp Show.
Thanks, Joanne.
You're welcome.